Hey, Dee, did you see that Instagram post I sent you about Play-Doh for adults and you can make flowers?
Yes, I did see it, and no thanks. I don't need any more hobbies.
What? Let me get it.
Did you
I bought,
actually get it? You
yeah,
bought it.
yeah. I haven't used it yet, but look, it's
Pretty.
got these, I don't know if you can see on the side of the box. It's got these tubes and you put the dough in the tubes and then you squish it up and then it makes the flower.
It probably has mammal products in it
You
or
know what?
wheat.
Oh, yeah, it does contain wheat.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing no Play-Doh.
Play-Doh contains wheat. I'm good.
All right. Well, since you're not going to do Play-Doh, I'll do it. I'll post pictures.
Sounds
You
good.
get us started on this podcast episode.
I'll be glad to. Welcome to the Garden Angelus, where we chat about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma. I still have 2 gardens, but maybe not for long.
Cool. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana, a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
We are Garden Angelus because we love gardening and we would like for you to love it too.
Yes, we would, and we aren't afraid to spill all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough chit chat to get this episode going. Let's go. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Carol. How does your garden grow? My goodness, you did a lot this week. Okay, go.
You know what? I didn't do a lot. It was really kind of hot, so every morning I got up and I watered. And then, depending on what else I had going that day, I did do some weeding.
Mm.
And when I was out in my vegetable garden, I saw coming up in the corner of the fence, I thought, that's a mulberry tree. It
Yeah,
was growing in my neighbor's corner, and so I saw him the next day and I said, "Hey, Mark, do you care if I cut that mulberry tree out because highly invasive?" He says, "Well, I was gonna let it grow for the birds." I says, "No, no, much better choices. Like get a service berry or something, but no, you do not need that in the corner of your fence." So he said, "Yeah, you can cut it out." Filled half the trash bag with it. It's pretty big.
yeah.
So I have
They get
picked
big. They really do.
they grow fast, and I said, "I've got those coming up all over the place." I'm constantly cutting them out because I'm cutting them down to the ground, and the roots are still there, and they come back, and I just fight the same ones over and over, and I need to
Mhm.
dig them out, but that's another day. I
Or
uh,
cut the roots beneath the surface. You can
yeah,
do
I do as best I can.
yeah.
I picked more green beans, I picked some squash, first couple of cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, first big tomato
Yeah.
sitting on the counter ripening, still growing microgreens. Saturday, I was at my sister's,
Mhm.
older sister, and toured her garden and am extremely jealous how many cucumbers she is picking and her grandchildren are picking. And it was kind of cute because her 4-year-old nephew was visiting from out of state. And he's like, "What's your name?" "Aunt Carol." He says, "I'll take you on a garden tour." Okay. Anyway, he has no idea how much Aunt Carol knows about gardening. But anyway, he had picked up a lot of knowledge in 3 or 4 days and he was going to
I
show
mean, this
me.
kid is amazing.
Yeah, he was going to show me this garden. So, and then I went to my
Love that.
youngest sister's on Sunday. We identified the mystery vine that I talked about that she didn't know what it
Yeah.
was. It's lemon cucumber,
Oh,
those
okay.
little balls of lemon
Yeah, yeah,
cucumber.
yeah.
And so,
Fairly early, because if you wait for them to be lemony, the seeds are too big.
yeah, she picked it and she ate some of it. And then she said it was making her stomach hurt because it's got too much of the cucumber stuff. But she and my sister both are picking way more cucumbers than I am. I'm a little jealous, but I think it's they trellis theirs and I'm letting mine grow on the ground. Anyway, I'll get
They're
some.
getting more heat,
They're
and
getting more heat, and I thought maybe
more
the bees are
sunlight.
finding the flowers more easily, and so anyway, that was
Love the
kinda
thing.
and I mowed. I
Mhm.
already mentioned that. Anyway, that's the week. Hot, get her done, get home.
And you're growing microgreens, did you mention that?
I think I did.
Okay.
They're delicious.
Good. They are good. They're really good. Okay, well, in my garden, which I can't even find,
Which garden?
the one here, I d I didn't do much at the old house garden. I mean, it's in pretty good shape. It's okay. I did some weeding here because the Bermuda grass is trying to work its way into those beds because
Sure it
it goes
is.
wherever there's good soil, right?
Mhm.
And there is no good soil in my yard. I've been working on it ever since I moved in because they put the grass down, the sod on the regular soil, the sandy red soil, and it just doesn't have any nutrients. So I've been working and working on it, putting clippings and all kinds of things, so there's that. And then let's see, I also watered my pots, although they're on a water when it gets to be 99 degrees, you have to water pots twice. I could do it with the drip, but it'd be really hard because 'cause you'd have to, go in. Now, having said that, we've had 2 rain events, and I got, like, 3 inches of rain one day, and then I got an inch of rain another day, so lots and lots of rain.
We got a half inch, I believe, Monday
We're
after.
right in that the high is up north of us, which is unusual, and we're right in that same cycle where Texas is, where they've had all the flooding, but we
Yes.
haven't had flooding. We've been spotty, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'd love to have it.
Interestingly, because of the way that runs counterclockwise, we've been getting our storms coming from the west, going toward the west, which normally they go toward the east.
So
So
they're coming from the east and going west.
yes, which is very unusual. So, we've been having that, and actually there's one that may happen while we're here. Alright, so, let's see. Oh, and when I was out there weeding, I noticed that my zinnias are starting to finally do their thing. Finally, it's taken all same forever. I have a theory about that, and I actually got the information from my friend Ladybug, Jennifer, because
Uh-huh.
she and I talked about it, and I said, "They're doing okay in this one area, but not at all over here," and I took video, and she goes, "The soil is way too rich." She goes, "Zinnias
Oh.
like poor soil," and over on the right-hand side where they were doing better, it was because that was where he dug to put in the lines for the sprinkler.
Oh, okay.
So he mixed up the soil, see? And so the bad soil was on top and they were very happy. So there you
Interesting.
go. I thought that was very interesting, but they're finally starting to come up. And then because everything else in the garden's happy. So I
Right.
know it's not like a chemical issue or a big imbalance. It's just a fluke. So
You wanna know about an old gardener learning a new trick?
I'd love to.
So, I mean, until 10 years ago, I worked every day, so I always watered everything in the evening.
Mm,
And after I retired, I would go out in the evening and water. And
mhm.
then I kept reading, like, the best time to water really is early in the morning. And
Morning.
so this year, I've completely switched, and I water early in the morning. I don't look at it in the evening. If it's slightly wilted, I'm gonna water you in
Worry
the
about it.
morning. It
Yeah.
will most of it recovers overnight. So I'm really convinced that early morning watering is so much better, and you don't tend to overwater because it doesn't look as bad in the morning as it does in the evening.
Right, because it's had a chance to recover,
Exactly,
especially where you
exactly.
live. Now, one of the big issues in Oklahoma and Texas is that a lot of times it stays pretty hot at night. So
Yeah.
they'll recover from the sunlight, lack of sunlight, that helps a little bit, but the heat is still pretty high, so it is harder for them to recover. But yeah, I water in the morning because it's easier on your plants, and also it stops some of the plant diseases.
Oh, yeah.
Leaves can dry out. So,
Right, right. Anyway, old
interesting.
dog, new tricks,
Yeah.
playing
Yeah,
favorites.
we can always learn something new.
Well, it's just like the habit was to do it in the evenings because that's when I had time when I was working, and as soon as I changed that, it's like, I can learn stuff at my advanced age."
You're not advanced age-wise, you're advanced in other ways. Alright, so let's play favorites. What's your favorite this week?
Well, I'm gonna have to go with that big tomato that I picked. It is a variety called beefsteak,
Love
and
beefsteak.
I thought if I don't make it the favorite, the fairies are gonna get mad,
I
and
don't
I don't
blame
wanna
you.
make them mad. Also felt like if I didn't pick it, the animal would get to it first, so it's ripening. I think it'll be ready Sunday to ripen, and so anyway, I'm gonna go with that first big tomato. And do you remember years ago, you probably don't, I wrote a blog post about, like, the ritual around the first big tomato, and
Oh,
I
yeah, you put it on a pillow.
I still have that pillow, and so I took a picture of it this morning on the pillow. I if it ripens a little more, I might take the picture again tomorrow. But I thought, for old time's sake, I'm gonna I know where that pillow is.
You're gonna do a reprise.
And I'll link to that because I thought it was kind of funny.
Reprise. I don't know how you pronounce that.
But anyway,
Uh, one of my old neighbors gave me some tomatoes.
I know you talked about that last week. I was kinda
I ate
jealous.
them. I've got one left.
You need to have that neighbor come bring you some more.
You know, that was really good. That one and there was a giant one in there. It exquisite.
But
Uh,
now you I don't know if you said, but Bill is home, so you if you got tomatoes now, you'd have to share with Bill.
there's only one left. I'll share one with him.
Okay. What's your favorite?
Maddie and Megan came over and they one of them,
Yeah,
so that
they
there
did
was
eat
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to say it's my brand new sunflower. I sent you a picture of it, and they're all starting to open. And Maddie, there's I sent you a picture of one that was half open too.
Yeah?
Maddie came in, my granddaughter, and she says that the room at the back of the house is hers, and so she came running in there and she goes, "Gigi, Gigi." I said, "What, honey?" And she takes her hands and she goes, "Your sunflower's about to open." For those who don't just listen to us, she was holding her hands in a little circle and she goes, "It's a very tight bud, but it's about to open." And I thought that
Nice.
was the sweetest thing. I mean, she's only 6 years old.
Well, that I would like to say, you didn't actually text me the pictures, you just texted me a text that said, "Favorite this week." So after we get done,
I'll
you
do it
can
right
send it
now
to
because you know what? The stupid iPhone now, if you choose the pictures first and then put the caption underneath it, for some reason, it doesn't send the pictures. So I'm sending the pictures to Carol right this minute. And
there
there
you
I
go.
think I want the half open one in the newsletter because it's
Okay.
cute.
I'll remember that. All right. Question of the week. I got this one from my sister.
Okay.
Why did a big limb that looked healthy suddenly fall out of my tree? And she showed me, I mean, this limb probably was 6 inches in diameter,
Yeah.
and it fell out of the tree, and it just ripped bark off this other branch that it
Oh,
was
no.
on, and, the first thing I said was, "We'll have to look that up," and the second
Yeah.
thing was, the branch that's got that huge tear, it's a
Yeah.
pine tree, I said, "You guys need to cut that off,"
Yeah.
and
Because
so,
disease will get in there.
but anyway, I looked up and Davy Tree Service had the answer.
What is it?
There's something called sudden branch drop syndrome,
Okay.
and when you have, like, a real hot spell, a
Mhm.
big branch in what is normally like a healthy tree can just break off. And she said it literally, she was inside, she heard something, she went out, and there was that big branch on the ground.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. So, I'd never heard of that before, and, you know, it's like,
I never have either.
it
You would think I
happened.
would because we have long spells of hot weather. Not this summer, though. All of Europe is hot as Hades.
Yeah, I don't know if it was because we were kind of like normal and then we, like, had a hot week,
Right.
then that and maybe the big change in temperature in a short period of time
Could
caused
be.
it. But they don't really know what causes it. They're speculating that it's the heat and everything. So, anyway, I
Who
thought that
knows
was
what it is?
interesting.
Yeah, that
I
is. It's
I
really
did not take a picture, but I told her to cut that branch off, and then I sent her a video that shows how you do an undercut,
yeah,
and then you go out from that, you do the overcut, and that way you don't end
tear
up,
it.
like, ripping off a whole bunch of
Yeah, you
bark.
don't tear it.
And don't go right up you gotta cut just on the other side of the collar, that little stub, don't leave the stub. So,
Yeah,
anyway.
okay. Alright, so, let's go to our insect of the week, and you came up with mimosa webworms, and you got the information from Purdue, and there's 2 ways to treat these.
Well, the mimosa webworm, it gets on mimosa trees. Now, mimosa trees in Indiana are considered invasive. Prior to 10 years ago, you did not see them in central Indiana. You do
Yeah,
now see them in central Indiana.
yeah.
They often sometimes look like an overly large shrub, and they are pretty.
Oh, yeah, I've got a in fact, I have a picture of a mimosa that I'll give you for the
Okay.
newsletter because, there's one in a ditch over here, and I
Yeah.
grew up with mimosa trees. I did a little post about it on Instagram, and I grew ours were big enough in our yard, the people who had planted them before, because at that time, when they planted them, which would have been in the '50s, they were an exotic tree, and they were
Yes.
cool. So they had one in their front yard and one in their backyard. And I know about this because they were gardeners. They had a double lot in the back, and you could see the edges of the garden, and I remember thinking that that was really cool, and they had fruit trees. But I digress. So
Yes.
these webworms come from
Well, the mimosa is
host plant,
the host plant, but the other host plant is the honey locust. And
which is a native tree.
yes, and I have a big honey locust. And remember a couple years ago, I started noticing these webworms, and I
We
figured
get
out that
them. Uh-huh.
mimosa webworms, and so I looked it up and I thought, "Hmm, what should I do?" And I decided to do nothing.
Mhm.
And over time, the birds have eaten a lot of them, and so I don't get very many of them anymore. I never really had damage to the tree that I had to go and get an arborist and come clean up this damage or whatever.
Yeah.
And then as compared to my neighbors across the street, I have a large one. They sprayed it like crazy they had a guy come in and spray it, and we talked about that on the podcast because I was
I remember.
horrified that the guy was wearing no protective gear and he was spraying up into that tree,
Yeah.
and
A bunch of those guys
anyway,
do that, and I'm like, "Y'all are crazy."
but the thing is, what you learn from this is nature has a way of kind of balancing things out. Yeah, I had a year or 2 with a big population, but then they went away. They're all balanced out.
Yeah, and I have trouble. I don't know if it's this webworm, but I have trouble with webworms in a couple of trees. And so what I read to do was to take a broom handle if it's not too far up in the tree, which, a honey locust is huge. And if you just break the web, because that's their protection, the birds get right in there and eat them,
Oh,
and it
yes.
does work.
Yes.
That's what I've done with them because
Yeah, same with
yeah,
tent
I just
caterpillars.
don't
You kinda
spray.
break that web and
Yeah,
then the birds will and I get a lot of birds. I
I
get a
do
lot of
too.
birds. So, anyway, that's the
I've had
insect.
these before. I've had these in addition to the other kind of webworms. Yep.
I'll do a quote
Oh,
and we'll get into our flower
wow,
topic.
there's so many things you could spray it with. I'm gonna turn that off.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along.
A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself. Forests are the lungs of our land, purifying the air and giving fresh strength to our people. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah. I didn't know he said that, and I thought that was really cool.
That is cool. Thank you for finding that.
It was easy. Okay, so flowers, we decided to talk about choosing trees for your garden because didn't you get a question about that too?
No, well, I do have periodically people ask me about trees, but I was just thinking about like on a hot summer day,
Mhm.
I'd sure rather be in the backyard under that honey locust, which shades almost, I mean, I'm losing sunshine in my various flower beds,
Yeah.
but at certain times of the day, it shades almost the entire backyard except for the vegetable garden. Then in the front, which doesn't have the kind of, well, I have an oak tree in the front, but there's a lot more sun in the front. And
Mhm.
so people think about trees in the fall and like, let's think about where you might want to have trees in the summertime because the shade is good for you. And also, if you can get one that shades the house, cuts
Mhm.
down on your energy bills. So we'll go through some things to think about when you're choosing a tree.
There's so many things to think about because it's a permanent fixture to your yard.
It is a permanent fixture.
You're gonna have it the rest of the time you live there
And it can
and
be
the
a
next people there.
costly investment.
Eh well, they are because remember when all my trees burned down, I went and bought 2 really nice trees, and the people who are gonna buy my house will get those trees, but you know what? I'm really grateful to have them. I think
There you
it's
go.
nice.
So size at maturity is the first thing you got to think about.
And don't yeah, don't plant them underneath electric lines.
No.
Because that happens here a lot because some of our bigger electric lines, especially in older neighborhoods, they're exposed, right? They're
Right?
up in the up in the sky. Well, you put that little tree there and you think it's not gonna be a big deal, but then that tree grows up and then you end up with really ugly trees or.
Well, what happens is like in my case, the city comes along where we do still have overhead power lines. My neighborhood is all buried. Yours is probably all buried.
Yeah, the new one, but not my old
But
one.
yeah, and my where my sister lives, I mean, their house was built in 1960. They have overhead power lines.
Yeah,
But they'll just come in and,
chop the tree however they want to.
they just chop it away from the thing, so you end up with a tree that's like half of it is just cut out, and that's not good for the health of the tree, so yeah, you're right. Think about the size of the tree and
Okay.
don't and then look up if you're gonna plant a big tree like an oak, look up and see, is there anything up there that you think is gonna be an obstruction or that it's gonna get into? And I'm still amazed how big my honey locust is, but, I mean, it
I
almost
mean, I'm gonna plant a tree here. I'm gonna plant a shade tree.
yeah,
But I need to think about where we should place it so it doesn't overshade my front flower bed.
right. And then think about blooms because every tree blooms. The question is, do you want one with really showy blooms like a magnolia or a crabapple or a serviceberry? Maples, oaks, they're blooming too, but they don't have showy blooms.
No.
And is that important to you? The bigger the tree, the less likely you are to have big showy blooms.
And that brings up something interesting about plants in general anymore. Hybridizers, because people don't like messy yards and they don't like messy flower beds, they've made more and more male. They've emphasized male plants instead of female plants because some plants need male and female, right?
Right,
So and that's caused a heavy duty pollen load because there's nowhere for that pollen to go, especially wind pollinated things.
right.
So people have worse allergies, and that's just one of those byproducts of, you think you're
Exactly.
doing something good and yeah,
Yeah, because I have a ginkgo, which gets into the next question, native or not native. The ginkgo tree is a male tree
yeah,
because the female ginkgo produces the most
stinks.
obnoxious smelling fruit. It smells like dog do.
It does. It doesn't smell good at all. I think because it attracts flies because it's a really old tree, it's one of the
Yes,
oldest trees on earth. Something and actually deciduous magnolias don't attract flying insects
that's right.
because of the same thing. They're really, really ancient. That brings up the fact that, yes, not only should you notice blooms, but you should also think about the fruit because
Right.
is it sycamores that have the big balls of fruit?
Sweet gums have
Sweet
great big
gums.
balls. The
Yeah, and they're
sycamore
kinda
also has a big ball, and there's another tree, the butterball tree, which
yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
But cleaning up, because I'll tell you what, years and years ago when I first moved here, I bought a seedless sweet gum.
okay.
And
It
after about 4 years, I mean, I had sweet gum balls everywhere. So I took a picture of it. I
it
took the
wasn't
receipt
seedless.
and I went back to the nursery where I'd bought it up on the north side of Indianapolis.
Mhm.
And I said, "It's not seedless." And they just looked at me like, "Lady, you bought that 4 years ago. We could care less." These people probably didn't even work there 4 years ago.
Probably not, but
Anyway,
but
I
you
cut
told
it
them.
down. I cut it down. I got
Yeah,
rid of it.
I mean, there's certain trees that I would not want them because they have those great big balls. And also crab apples, a lot of the crab apples now have persistent fruit because the old crab apples, those would fall and they were messy
My
and it
Mine
was
has
hard to mow
persistent
around.
fruit, and
Mine
I don't
doesn't.
even hardly notice it. I mean, birds come and eat it.
Tiny, birds eat it, and makes them
Yeah,
really happy. Okay, so native, non-native. Did we talk
right.
about that yet?
We just touched on it because I said I have a ginkgo that's not native, but my honey locust is native, my oak tree is native. We'll talk
At
about
the
a couple others in the vegetable garden.
at the old house, I have a lot of native trees, not just the ones that came with the house. A lot of those are gone because of the fire, but yeah, serviceberry, I have that.
I have
I planted a
serviceberry,
lot of native trees. I planted
native dogwoods,
yes, I have the
Cornus Florida.
yes.
The thing is, there are, and I say this as somebody who has a stinking ginkgo over there.
I
Because
love your
remember last fall, I almost decided to cut that ginkgo out because I thought old Carol's not going to want to mess with this leaf fall
mhm,
because all at once it drops all those leaves, and
yeah,
it was
famous
wet,
for that.
and it was like, do I do I want this?
Mhm.
But there are too many. I think there are too many native choices, too many good native choices to
Oh,
really.
now, yeah, now and that's funny because when you're a young gardener, you want exotic things that are different, but then as you in my opinion, as you mature as a gardener, then you go, "Okay, well, I really should plant more native trees." I was trying to think of what that other tree is
Although
that
I have 2
suckers, but
different spruces, one of them is a Chinese spruce and one of them is a Norway spruce, neither one is native, but they're big.
I mean, we don't have very many native evergreens in the
No,
central part of the United States, we just
no,
don't. Okay, so evergreen versus deciduous. Every client I go to wants evergreens. They want
because 'cause they're
evergreens
hard to grow in
their
Oklahoma.
house. Well, I think it's also because they want green in the wintertime because our grass
Yes.
isn't green, it's brown. And I really work hard to not I mean, if the I don't think you should have all evergreens. I don't think that's good for you, and the ones that grow here so well are junipers, and junipers should not be right up against your house. I don't care how pretty the juniper is. Tailors are very pretty, The Wichita blue is very pretty, but they you don't for fire, you don't want them up near your house.
Well, and we have like I said, I've got 2 non-native spruces, they're both fine, but around here, the blue
There's a
spruce,
disease, yeah.
there's a fungal disease, and I'll tell you what, the neighborhood, we had to pay because we have 8 Norway spruces in our common area planting, and
Uh-huh.
they were starting to get that, and I noticed another neighbor's got that, so we had a fungal spray put on it. And then the other thing too is sometimes, like, pine trees, they don't age gracefully like maybe an oak tree would.
No, they don't. Pine trees are not very
We have pine
pretty.
trees up and down the common area as well, and they're just, like, slowly dying. We had pine bark beetles and
Pine wilt beetle. Mhm. We
yeah,
had it too.
we did spray for those. I hate spraying for that kinda stuff, but,
Yeah.
replacing trees is not inexpensive.
Mhm.
So, I did tell my neighbor that's the president, I says, "We should pull up oak seedlings because I said, "I know you have them in your yard because there's a big oak next door." And I said, "We should just plant a whole bunch of oak seedlings in the common area and see what grows, and when it grows to a certain size, if there's pine trees in the way or whatever, we'll cut out the
Mhm.
pine trees, and then we'll have these oak trees for free."
Yeah, it works for me. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's several and also the pine wilt beetle does not affect native pine trees like the loblolly. I know it's not as pretty as some of the European pines, but it does not affect the loblolly as bad. I mean, when they came through here, those pine wilt beetles in Oklahoma, there were dead pine trees everywhere. It was I didn't have all I had
Well,
was a mugo
yeah,
and then a little white pine. They didn't
yeah.
affect those.
The white pine is what we have up front, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure.
Mine's
They're
new. It's a
and they're
baby,
affecting it.
little baby.
Leaf
So,
management.
yeah, leaf management, God knows. At my other house, I had a lot of leaf management. And you do have to manage leaves in your flower beds, especially if you have oak trees because they don't break down like other
Right,
like elm
right.
leaves, for example, that are thin. So all that stuff you read and see on the internet that says, "Oh, leave the leaves." Well, it'll smother your fescue if you have a fescue it'll smother your small perennials, it just smothers everything, so you do have to deal with them, and yeah, there's various ways. So think about that when you plant a tree. What are you gonna do about the leaves?
Yeah, 'cause like, the first 20 years I was here, leaf management was just I just mowed,
Mhm.
chopped them up, but now it's like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, at
That
my house, there was no just mowing it because
and the oak trees tend to hold their leaves all winter, so they're dropping
yeah,
them
it
in
depends on yeah, it
December,
depends on the type of oak. Here we have 2
January.
oaks, native, and yes, one of them loses them in the fall and one keeps them all winter, so you have a second leaf fall.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so there's that. Oh, does it sucker? Yes, some of the native ones especially sucker, and I'm trying
My
to
honey
remember
locust
black haw, my rusty black haw. That thing suckers like a
well, when I'm talking about the honey locust, I'm telling you that all over my back garden will come up little sprouts of honey locust.
yep,
Which tells you would not believe how far those roots have traveled from that tree. Because 'cause I'm
yep.
like, the tree is 50 feet away, and here's this sprout coming out. I'm like, "Oh god." And so, if I ever lose that honey locust, it's not gonna those sprouts are still gonna come up like crazy everywhere because
Mhm,
it's a grove-forming tree,
mhm.
and so do ask yourself and I'm gonna say it's a minor inconvenience. I do cut them when I find them, and I
Well, the
find a lot
rusty
of
black
them
haw is the same thing.
just
It's
everywhere.
definitely a colonizing tree, and so is the New Jersey tea. I mean, there look, just pick. I mean, there are a bunch of them that are like that because that's what they're supposed to do. So
Like my pawpaw is a colonizer?
yeah, pawpaws do that too. So you need to know that, and then we need to talk about what time of year do you plant?
Yes, and so and there's 2 ways you can buy a tree. You can buy a container grown, and then there's balled and burlap. Sometimes they'll do a balled and burlap, and it's in the container, but don't be fooled, it's been dug out of the
Still
field.
still balled and burlap. They're
The
just
best time to plant trees, regardless, is the fall,
yeah, it's the
and
absolute best time. Although I've planted them as late as December here because sometimes we aren't that cold, and you really wanna
you
plant them so that they have all that time to recover before the heat of summer hits, and people
exactly.
do the opposite, like my sweet neighbors across the street, who I hope don't listen to this, they 'cause two sets of neighbors do listen to our podcast. They bought a magnolia grandiflora, and they
Uh-huh.
planted it about 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, "Oh, that poor tree. That poor tree is it's suffering." But you know what? They have an irrigation system, so it'll
Well,
probably be okay.
yeah, you tend to see these flowering trees in the spring flowering in the garden center, and that's when they
Mhm,
want you to buy them because nobody thinks about when you're buying a tree that doesn't have any leaves, you kinda have to know what you're doing, and
mhm.
so but
And
bulb burlap
Magnolia grandiflora is somewhat evergreen here in
yes,
Oklahoma, but it does lose leaves, and they're very big. Just
yes.
the leaf maintenance issue.
There are a couple of magnolia grandifloras around here, I drive by one, it's north
Mhm.
of here, I mean, and yeah, I've been watching it for 20 plus years, and it's a grand tree, but I'm like, "That's a lot
That's
of
a
work."
yeah, because they drop leaves.
And
Don't
they're
kid
thick,
yourself.
they're thick.
They're thick, you yeah. We just mowed under ours, but still, it was something else.
So I'd say fall is best, and like you, if we have a mild fall going into winter, as long as the ground is not yet frozen, you can get a tree planted,
Right.
and you have to worry less about watering and stuff, although if you have a really dry winter, you do maybe have to go out there and give it some water.
Yeah, because anything over 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the roots are growing. So just keep that in mind. You might want to water it occasionally. And I was going to also say in Oklahoma, the ground never freezes. So
Yeah, it does freeze here.
yeah, I know. All right. So long term maintenance, we've kind of talked about some of that, but pruning is important. Uh,
Pruning and I've had to have 2 trees braced because, I just have a crotch thing that's not as strong as it should be, so they do
right.
a bracing, and they do it with
I've never
these
had a tree braced. That's
I
interesting.
have a red maple in front that's been braced, and then I have my honey locust. We braced a couple of branches that were he said, "With the right wind," and it was I think it cost, like, $300 or whatever, and they use, like,
Uh-huh.
a you can't see it, it's like a strap thing that's tied between the 2.
Uh-huh.
You'd have to really look to see it and know it's
That's
there.
interesting. I've never ever done that.
And
And
then I've
windy
had
here.
the honey locust prune, like, 3, 4 times. Every 2 to 3 years, I have them come out and just do some maintenance pruning, just kinda clean it up a little bit. Then I have them spot a few things and just, the stuff I can't reach.
Mhm.
So anyway, and then the last thing we were gonna talk about is trees in an ice storm. I have not had the kind of ice storms that you have had, Dee.
That one in 2020 was really terrible because the trees hadn't lost their leaves yet.
Yeah, that's
Came
bad.
in October. It was devastating, and it was all over central Oklahoma. Tulsa area didn't have that. I wrote an article for when I used to write for the Oklahoma Electrical Cooperative. I will try to find it after this, but it was about what trees do well in an ice storm. Certain trees are brittle, like the lacebark elm, if I remember right, is an extremely brittle tree, and people lost those. My Magnolia grandiflora looked like death on a stick after that ice storm, but,
Yeah,
Luz and I trimmed it up. I mean, literally, he and I stood there with another guy with a pole saw, and we made cut you know what I mean? We saved it, and it's in great shape. So, go
good.
figure. Native trees don't tend to be as devastated by ice storms as ones that are not native. I do remember from my article that the Kentucky coffee tree is considered a really good one to plant because of the shape of it's like a lollipop. That's one thing, and the other thing is it has tiny leaves.
Yeah,
Trees with tiny leaves aren't as likely
it's
to
a double compound leaf, one of the few double compound leaves that you'll ever see.
that's really cool.
So it's got leaflets that have leaflets,
That's really
double
cool.
compound leaves.
I do not have a Kentucky coffee tree.
I wish I had one now. Maybe I should take
Yeah,
down
maybe we
the
should go plant one.
ginkgo and get a Kentucky coffee tree over there.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. So, if I can't find that article, those were a couple of things I remember from it. I wrote it quite a while ago. Can I do the next quote? Are we ready?
Yes, let's talk
This
about the
is gonna be
vegetable
a
topping.
very long episode because we had a lot to
We'll
say about
speed up
trees.
here. We'll speed up.
Okay. "The clearest way into the universe is through a forest wilderness." John Muir.
Cool.
Vegetables.
Well, I was gonna talk about 2 trees for the vegetable
Mhm.
garden. One is the pawpaw tree because I did put a pawpaw on the corners of my vegetable garden,
Yeah.
and they're very lovely, and I think that if you're okay with cutting out those suckers periodically,
Mhm.
they're a nice unique tree. They have a tropical feel. They have fairly big leaves. The fruit is delicious if you can get to it before the raccoons do.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I've
so
never had a pawpaw. I believe you.
they're very delicious. But anyway, yes, high in protein, vitamins, and minerals. They the trees do well with partial shade, which mine are getting partial shade. They ripen around here in September. Now,
Mhm.
here's the thing if you're gonna buy them, and we'll link to Stark Brothers, although they were mostly sold out. It has a very long taproot, so don't think you're gonna dig one out of the woods and
Mm,
bring it to your property and have it's not likely to survive.
mm,
And most of the pawpaws that you buy for your garden are grafted, so you
yeah,
want 2 varieties for cross-pollination.
mhm.
It has a very it has a maroon bell-shaped flower in spring before the leaves come out.
Oh, how pretty.
It doesn't have a smell, but I think it's flies are pollinating it.
Another
Um,
old tree.
the seeds are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
They're it's a gr isn't it kinda like a seed, like a mango seed where it's like that type of
it's
seed?
yeah, it's bigger than a watermelon seed.
Oh, so it's not as big as a mango seed. I've never
It's
eaten a pawpaw, so I'm just guessing.
yeah.
Cool.
The reason that you'll never find them in the grocery store is pawpaws are very fragile. They don't
They're
ship well
delicate.
at all. So if
Mm-mm.
you go to a farmer's market, you may find somebody that's got pawpaws in September if that market's still open. So anyway, it's just something to consider.
Yeah, and they're native in Oklahoma too.
Yeah, they're
We have
native all
pawpaw
over.
groves. I've never seen a pawpaw tree, but I know that they are here because I hear people talk about them sometimes. Okay, so that's about pawpaws, and then you said, "Do walnut trees really stop tomatoes from growing?" No, except here's the deal. Okay, are we gonna talk about jug loan?
So they say that juglone, which is a toxic thing that comes out of the roots of the walnut, and it's basically to eliminate competition around it,
Mhm.
that will cause your tomato to end up with something called walnut wilt.
Mm.
And so they suggest that you not have a walnut tree within 50 feet of where you're growing tomatoes or grow the tomatoes in
And this is the
containers,
black walnut,
the black walnut.
which is native.
Yes.
Okay, so let me say something about this. I know that several people have written about this. It's based on an article and a study that was done a long time ago, and the
At
garden
Ohio State.
professors came out and said, okay, they tested it, and apparently there's not enough juglone to really screw up your tomatoes, but the real issue is, why
Shade.
would you grow it in the shade?
Yes.
And so I think it's important to remember that sometimes when there's a study, all of us repeat it, all of us who communicate, right? And then the garden professors come in and they say, "No, that's not exactly what's going on."
And I did a search and I could not find that article. So thank you. I'll look for the garden professors because I knew that they had kind of come out and sort of debunked it and said it's not enough. Because there's other trees that put out that jug loan that they said
Mhm.
you wouldn't want to plant around your vegetable garden. But mostly it's first of all, I would
Sometimes
never plant a black walnut in my yard unless I had like 50 acres.
I have
It
one
is a
in my
messy
backyard.
tree.
It's very messy.
And there's over around the corner, there's a black walnut that was here when they set up the neighborhood. And, the people that own the black walnut, they've just left it. But the neighbor next door, she gets those black walnuts falling onto her driveway all fall. And
Yeah, I would not plant a black
they're
walnut.
big, messy things. And, that if you try to take that ball, which the nut is inside of it, I mean, it just stains everything when you
Mhm.
touch it.
Can
It's
I
just
say something about that? Have I talked about the black walnuts and taking that and turning it into a paste? Have I ever talked about that?
did you turn it into a paste?
Yeah, because my kids across the street, our neighbor, she had a bunny and my kids got ringworm, okay? And
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
really mad at my neighbor because I was like, "You bring in all those animals and they aren't always kid friendly." All right, so she's Native American and she I had tried all this stuff, antifungal stuff, and none of it was working, and she goes, "Well, we just need to find a black walnut tree," and I was like, what?" And she goes, "No, really." So we did, we went down the street, my neighbor has it I have one too in my yard, but he has a really good one, and it was just the right time of year, and it had the green stuff on the outside, right? And so we took it and we sliced off that green stuff, and then I would mash it into a paste, and I put that on my kids. It was gone in 1 day.
Wow.
Now, there's another piece to this. So I told this story to my friend in Bulgaria who's a doctor, and I said, "This happened, blah, 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 blah," and he goes, "Iodine." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "It's iodine. That pulp has iodine in it, which is why it stains everything, and it's also why it works." He goes, "It's a natural antifungal." And I was like,
So you could have just put iodine on them.
"I could have if I'd known, but I didn't know, see?"
Oh,
So, isn't that cool?
that is cool.
It's a cool story.
Anyway, I'll do a quote, we'll go to the bookshelf.
Okay.
Did you catch the tree theme this week, Dee?
I helped you with the tree theme.
That's right. I wonder if our listeners have caught on. The tree which moves some tear I'll have to start over because I screwed that up. The tree which moves some to tears of joy is in the eyes of others only a green thing that stands in the way. Some see nature all ridicule and deformity, and some scarce see nature at all. But to the eyes of the man of imagination, nature is imagination itself. William Blake. You know I don't like
Okay.
those tongue twistery ones.
I'm sorry, I'll try to give that one to me next time, one of those. Okay, the bookshelf, it's 13 Ways to Smell a Tree, a celebration of our connection with trees by David George Haskell. And Carol is holding it up because she bought this a
I
long
bought this because remember in the spring, I listened to the book How Flowers Made Our World, The Story of Nature's Revolutionaries by
Mhm,
David George Haskell.
mhm.
And then after I did that, I listened to the audiobook of The Forest Unseen, A Year's Watch in Nature by David George Haskell.
Yeah, David George Haskell.
Both of them were fascinating, and I just learned a lot of different stuff that I didn't really think about. So I went ahead and bought this, just a little tiny essay book,
Mhm,
13 Ways to Smell a Tree, and it's really nice. I haven't read all the essays yet, but I've read several of them, and they have a variety of topics they talk about horse chestnuts, the Concord trees, American
mhm,
basswood, green ash, gin and tonic, ginkgo, ponderosa pine, pine tree hanging from the rearview mirror. You've seen those.
mhm.
Waygarga or Antarctic beech, white oak, bay laurel, wood smoke, olive oil, and books.
Interesting.
And then he's got the aromas of trees, 6 practices. And yeah, he's got a bibliography like nobody's business in here. But the chapter on books, let me go
Mhm.
back to that one. He talks about, this is all about scent. And so the scent of books and, books are made of paper, paper's made from tree bark or
Mhm.
tree wood and everything. So that was kind of interesting. And then he has another one. Again, it's all about scent. This one is apropos for this week. It's called Wood Smoke.
Cool.
And it's about how, our early ancestors were the first ones to make wood fires. And so the smell of a wood fire was the smell of home.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
then he goes in
love
and talks
candles.
about
Yeah, too.
the mess of, the wildflowers and all that causes problems and everything. And so it's really very good. I like recommend it. Get it from your
Is he a
library.
scientist?
Yeah, he's a scientist.
Obviously, yeah.
And let me see if he's a writer and biologist known for his rich integration of science, poetry, and attention to the living world. His 2 previous books, The Forest Unseen and The Song of Trees. Interestingly enough, I've not read either one of those. Won numerous awards, including the U.S. National Academy's Best Book Award, finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in Nonfiction.
Wow.
Yeah, the Reed Environmental Writing Award, National Outdoor Book Award, Iris Book Award, and John Burroughs Medal. Born in London and
Good
brought up
grief.
in
I don't
France,
even
he
know
is,
this guy, and
huh?
I don't even know who this guy is, and he's won all of this stuff.
Born in London and brought up in France, he has lived for the last 30
Wow,
years in various parts of the United States, including Tennessee, Colorado, and New York, finding new aromatic delights in the trees of each place. He
gotcha.
has a bachelor's from the University of Oxford. His PhD is from Cornell. He
Mhm.
is a Guggenheim Fellow and professor at the University of the South in Swanee, Tennessee. And he is on social media. We'll find him on Instagram. And yeah, so this book came out 2021.
Hmm,
But he's a good
interesting.
writer. And I like it. And like I said, this will be the 3rd book of his. And I didn't read the first 2. The ones that have won awards, haven't read those, but I have read these others. And I think that How Flowers Made Our World, I think that's getting a bunch of awards.
Prob
Oh, I have read The Forest Unseen. I did read that one. I forgot.
Cool.
Anyway, that's on the bookshelf. 13 Ways to Smell a Tree, a celebration of our connection with trees by David George Haskell.
I'll do a quote. The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And that makes me think of, oh, now I'm not going to be able to get it out. Okay. Famous naturalist, wrote a bunch of stuff about oak trees because he's really an entomologist. And he did the book with Richard Dark.
Doug Tallamy.
Thank you. I knew all of our listeners are screaming. Doug Tallamy in one of his books, the one that's really about the oak tree, where he studied all the insects on it and how
Uh
it
huh.
everything. He was the one who said that you should really plant just an acorn. You shouldn't go ahead
Yes.
and plant an oak tree because it'll
Yeah.
grow better. And you can put 3 acorns in an area and you'll have 3 oak trees in no time. That's kind of cool. All
Yes.
right, but that's not our dirt. Actually, our dirt is about Judi Dench and her passion for trees. And she has a documentary which is called My Passion for Trees. And I think the clip intro that you're talking about is the one that's on Instagram where she talks about the
This one is on the BBC site
oh, is
because
it on the BBC
yeah,
site? Okay, so I do remember this from I think it was an interview with 60 Minutes that she did. And she
could
talked about
be.
how she plants for each one of her friends who died.
She has trees. She loves trees. It shows her actually listening to trees and working with different arborists and scientists and stuff on different discoveries. So we'll link to that. You
And
can.
great that's important partly because Great Britain got rid of most of its trees for shipbuilding.
Uh huh.
And so it doesn't have as many trees as it used to. And it was once a big forest. And so they've been doing something called greening Great Britain for quite a while. So that's important too.
All right. Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky. Khalil Gibran, Sand and Foam.
So I'll do my rabbit hole first. I bought a new cookbook called The High Protein Plate by Rachel DeVoe, probably DeVoe. And I was using it to prop up my deal. So sorry.
That's okay.
I was propping it up, but I wanted you guys to see it. So it's one of the reasons I bought it was because my husband, for those who don't know, because I didn't really talk about it, he had a huge surgery like 4 weeks ago, huge, where they fused his whole back basically. And so he just got out of the rehab hospital yesterday, which you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Well, one of the things you need to heal is protein, lots of protein. And so I've been really in this book and enjoying it thoroughly. And she's a good cook, and then she also shows you how to do freezer meals, and
Nice.
yeah, I used to do freezer meals when I had kids, but that was a long time ago. That was when that craze was going on. So that's my rabbit hole. What's yours?
So I finished listening to the audiobook of Three Bags Full by Leonie Swan,
Mhm,
and the movie The Sheep Detectives, which I dearly loved, is
mhm,
based on it.
mhm.
And I will say that Sheep Detectives is now on Amazon Prime. You and Bill could sit there and watch it. I think you would
Oh,
enjoy it.
I think we would.
It's one of 2 with the sheep solving it. I will say I like the movie better. The sheep spent way too long solving the mystery. But there's a second one called Big Bad Wool, and I'll probably have to listen to it because you know how I am with series and things. I like
Yeah,
to
you have
finish.
to complete them.
Yes, and so I also found out via a comment on my post about Catherine S. White that we talked about last week.
Mhm.
Somebody wrote a biography of hers, and where is that? Oh, here it is. So I thought, you know what? I want to read her biography for some odd reason, even though I think she's kind of like a, we wouldn't be friends in real life. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
She's probably way too snobby. Anyway,
Not your type.
no, but I'm on the trail, like I said last time, of a new one, and she's from West Virginia.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody's ever heard of her, but
Awesome.
somebody went and made a book out of all her articles. So I bought that book and it's in the other room. So I'll be working on that here in a little bit. So that's
Okay.
my rabbit holes.
Very cool. Okay, so for our garden to visit, we decided to do the United States National Arboretum, which is at the Smithsonian. That's where it is. It's in Washington, D.C., and it's right outside if I remember right, it's right outside the original Smithsonian building, and it goes down the mall, and it's huge. And when we went to visit there, it was really cool because they had a docent, and she's really famous, and I can't think of her name right now because 'cause it's been too long, but she went around and showed us all kinds of great things about the plants that were not things you would normally know, and so I really loved my visit, and it is a great place to see trees. It's a great place to see lots of unusual things. They have a lot of unusual
Cool.
things.
Now, did they have, I saw a video online. Did they have a bonsai exhibit there at the National
Yes.
Arboretum?
Yeah, I think they did, yeah.
And I think is it Janet Draper that showed you around?
It might be Janet, yeah, I think it was
She
Janet.
just recently retired as one of the main gardeners at the Smithsonian, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
it was
surprised if
her. It was her.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just can't remember her
Look at
name.
me snapping out the names, done
Man, you're
telling me,
snapping out names and everything today.
well, let's do our garden commissions.
Okay, mine is I need to mulch the back borders now that all my seeds are up. I could have done it before and just left a spot for the seeds, but I didn't. I did almost everything in the back borders from seed. And then I was sent a couple of roses, and then I planted 3 other roses. Interestingly enough, I bought a Carefree Beauty rose from
Uh-huh.
Antique Rose Emporium because I didn't wanna do cuttings of my roses again. I just didn't wanna do it. It takes a long time. It's not Carefree Beauty.
Yeah, you said that. I think you said that last week or 2
I've
weeks ago.
gotta Yeah, I've gotta go and take some pictures of it and send it to him and go, which rose is this? Because this is not Carefree Beauty.
Yeah, I didn't get what I paid for.
Then get the one I bought. Okay, and so I need to do that, and I need to keep them weeded because for some reason, that area, the Bermuda grass is really coming up, and so I noticed on the edge.
Yeah. So my
They
week
aren't
is
as
gonna
deep.
it's gonna be much the same. I don't think it's gonna be in the 90s. I think it's gonna be in the upper 80s, but that's hot. Water, weed, mow the lawn if it needs it. It's really slowing down. I plan to take it easy, read books, maybe watch a few movies, stay inside where it's cool and the air isn't bad because the air is we're not like Minnesota and Michigan and New
Wisconsin,
York
New
where you
York,
can see the
New
air, it's so
Hampshire.
bad,
Mhm.
but we have no zone action days where they're saying, "Hey, if you have problems with breathing or asthma or you're elderly or whatever, stay inside and
Mm.
try not to do things that add to the air pollution if you can help it."
Like filling up your tank, your gas tank.
Exactly. Although I
Um
did mow early this morning. I have a gas-powered mower, but
I played that game with a bunch of people, and in my particular alliance, I have a lady from New Hampshire, a guy from New York City, and then I have a person from Wisconsin.
they're
They
feeling it.
they were talking about all of that yesterday in the alliance chat. It's really bad.
Yeah, our friend Mary Shear up there in Minnesota, she was at her community garden and she showed herself out there. She had an N95 mask on, which is recommended if you're gonna go out in that kind of weather for any length of time. She
Which
was
is really hard
watering.
to breathe anyway,
Yeah,
in an N95. I don't know how people.
right.
Yeah, it's complicated, and I remember after the fire, somebody said on the news this morning that it smells like an ashtray. Yeah, it does. It smells like an ashtray. It's terrible.
Anyway, well, if you wanna have some good smells for the most part, remember our book, 13 Ways to Smell a Tree. And with that, let's wrap this up, Dee. We gone on and on and on.
Man, we talked a lot today. Go ahead.
Thank you for listening to The Garden Angelist. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Be sure and follow us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us get noticed by others.
And if you subscribe to our Substack newsletter, you'll get a link to listen to the podcast an entire day early and links to the products we discuss. Plus, you can go over to YouTube and see us in person. Full episodes show up on Tuesdays. So if you can't wait until Wednesday, you now have 2 ways to get episodes on Tuesday.
And if you want to help support us, use our affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we're in a small commission. It doesn't cost you anything extra.
Yeah, and you know what? People do that, and we really
Yeah.
appreciate it because it helps us pay for podcast hosting, which is part of what you're supposed to say. You also can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal. You also have the option of pledging your support on Substack for our newsletter. I mean, where you can pay us any way you want, pretty much.
Thank you to everyone who has done so. As Dee said, it does help us pay for podcast hosting.
Yeah. It was lovely to chat with all of you over the garden gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.